Next action item, third amendment to the land sale agreement.
Yes, asking the board to ratify and approve the third amendment to the land sale agreement as presented. What we do have for review from the board this evening, as going through the process, as we talked at the last meeting, it would likely move even further. So now we are out to March 6th of 2018. As you'll see, item number 2, we've X'd out. They asked that we reduce the purchase price. We're not able to do that without beginning the entire process. So that's not an option in the state of Illinois with municipalities. So with that being said, we have to determine a way to make up about $900,000. Working with the Village of Tinley Park, their first strategy is to have their engineers work with the engineers that are working for Woodman's to determine some of the retention area. If we can rework some of that retention area, they believe they can reduce the cost of the project significantly. Now, this is a result of the original specs for the project having 4 to 5 outlots, and now there's only 1 due to the floodplain. So that reduces their potential revenue. So, first step is for the engineers to work together. The second step then is for the Village of Tinley to work with the other municipalities to determine if there are any other incentives or rebates that could be put together as a package to try and come up with the difference in the purchase price. So we'll know more when we come back to the table in February. By then, the engineers will have worked together. The Village of Tinley will have been able to put together some different incentive options for other municipalities to consider. This is advantageous for everyone if a grocer goes in there. It's not a warehouse. There's greater tax implications both on the sales tax and the property tax side of things. So I would ask the board to ratify the extension to go to March 6, 2018, and then I will have more information for the board in February. Question?
They're open to working with the Tinley Park engineers?
Yes, absolutely, yes. They spoke with their executive vice president that's in charge of the project. We had a couple of different conversations over the winter break. They are committed to making this work, and they want to build a store and be there in Tinley. One of the things they've determined through the Army Corps of Engineers and the surveys that were done, they will not be able to have access off of Harlem due to the cost of running a bridge across the floodplain. So they did quite a bit of analysis in terms of, regionally, we're willing to drive a little bit further to get where we want to go. It's just what we do in the Chicago suburbs. They don't see that where they're at in Wisconsin. So they've done studies to indicate that people would be willing to drive across Harlem and take the left in off of 191st because that's where their entrance and exits will be. They will not have access off of Harlem. So they've put quite a bit of engineering into this project, so they're committed to making this work. They appear to be committed. We hope. So we'll continue to work, and as I said, we'll have a little bit more information in February as we move forward. Obviously, as we've discussed, we would like to close this fiscal year.
Is that a time frame they seem to be comfortable with as well?
Correct, yes. Because the sooner they close, the sooner they can have a shovel in the ground to open. Correct.
How does the Village of Tinley Park feel that kind of avoiding do they feel they're committed?
Yes, they're excited about the project and continue to move forward as well.
How do we come up with March 6th?
March 6th was just moving it out 16 more days. That's essentially what it was. We wanted to keep a window so there's still that movement and encouraging of movement. Keep that ball moving right now.
Any other questions for Dr. Tingley at this time? If not, entertain a motion to ratify the third amendment to the land sale agreement.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. The next action item is property insurance renewal.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes, so we went out to bid again for our insurance renewal. This is for property casualty liability insurance. As you see in your report, 2 years ago, the district switched brokers, went with Alliant Mesro Insurance Services, and at that point saved about over $235,000 in our insurance. Now, coming off of that, we've negotiated hard with the carriers, even having a large claim this last year from our boiler. We actually came back with some increases in coverage and have a modest increase of $11,394 in our premium, or 2.6%. We would recommend go ahead and move forward in buying this coverage.
Entertain a motion to approve the property insurance renewal as presented. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
Just in determining the increases in coverage, I mean, what brought those about? Was it just that's something they were offering, or is that something we were looking for?
No, it's something we're looking for. So one of the things that, Alliant/Mesro does for us is an evaluation of our packages and that. And so this last year, they really were focused on trying to get the best package with the best price, obviously $230,000 decrease. Now what we were looking at was trying to just tweak some of those areas. For like example, non-monetary defense. So that'd be a case where we were in a lawsuit and they weren't really seeking damages in dollars, but seeking us to change something in program or whatever. Well, that would cover attorney fees. Well, we had only $100,000. We were able to move that up. Attorney fees are expensive. Dishonesty limits. We only had $25,000. We felt like, they recommended that should be up. So these are recommendations from Mesro on things we should do to increase our coverage to more in line with our operations for our size.
Are these in line with, what we had prior to prior to last year, like if you go one back 2 years, I know you weren't here.
I don't know that. I haven't gone back and looked. I don't know if there was any major changes. It was my understanding that the difference was just the hard shopping in the market is what really got us the substantial discount. And now we're with stable premiums, we're looking to actually bring our coverage up. So that's my understanding.
This 2.6% increase is factored into our budget when we were planning earlier this year?
Right, we planned, for increase, so this is within our budget.
Good question.
We've had good experience with them.
Yes, we've had very good experience following up on claims and that kind of stuff with them. They're very responsive. We worked with them on a number of things. I think Rich would say the same, working through the boiler. I mean, that was a big claim. And, we received our funding and everything worked out.
Motion and a second. If there's no additional discussion, call for a vote.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Final action item tonight is the Lincoln Way East roof replacement bid. I would entertain a motion to accept the BLA recommendation as it was presented in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, open for discussion. Scott, please.
Rich, who's going to lead off on us today?
We'll have Rich, he's the expert here.
Basically, what we have is We'd like you to approve the bid for a roof restoration at Lincoln Way East on several roofs. The original plan and the original budget was for a retrofit, which means we would put a roof on top of the existing. Through some core samples and infrared imaging, we have determined with the manufacturer that the roofs were great candidates for a restoration, which would give us 15 years or more on our existing roofs before we overlay them. And it's the cheapest option at this time, bring up some funds for us to complete some of the other projects in our capital improvement plan.
How, I know it's a 15-year warranty. How long do we anticipate this actually lasting? I guess, as I read through this, I thought maybe it was worth having a discussion. Is it worth spending the extra $150,000 now?
That's a great question, and I anticipated that question. The way we're looking at this is, once you retrofit or put another roof on top of the existing roof, your next step is a complete tear-off. To do a complete tear-off on the roofs at these school buildings means upgrading insulation to the new energy code. In order to do that, in some cases, you have to rebuild parapet walls, move mechanical equipment. It comes very, very, very expensive very quickly. The longer we can keep our existing roofs intact, the better for the district in the long term, as far as dollars are concerned.
So that extra $150,000 could escalate well beyond that quickly when you started to tear things off, if you wanted to go with that alternate number one?
If you went with the alternate and you recovered the roof, if you retrofitted the roof now, the next time you visit that roof, it's a complete tear-off.
Gotcha.
So this is buying one more time?
This is buying 15 to 20 years, and then a retrofit, which gets you 30 years. So that gets us way out there with our existing roof, keeps our roof out of the landfill, and saves quite a bit of money over the term, in my opinion.
What was this in our roofing survey that was done? Where did this fall in that survey at this time? Was this what was recommended at that time, or was this?
Architects recommended a retrofit on all roofs that did not have to be torn off. Like I said, working with the manufacturer of the roof, we did some core samples, infrared imaging, like we discussed when we did the survey, and they recommended that the roofs were great candidates for a restoration to extend the life.
Just a quick, who was the they? Who was the second they? Who recommended the restoration? The architect?
The roofing manufacturer?
The manufacturer, thank you.
Now, we don't have the capital projects plan in here, but was this there was more roof work to be done this summer, correct? Or was this the only roof work?
This is
being
all the
done?
roof work to be done summer of 2018.
Okay.
Have we worked with this company before? This roofing company?
I have not worked with this roofing company. Our architects have, and they recommend that we accept it.
Have we done any of our own due diligence on this company? Financial, reputational, anything? Or just working off the DLA's?
Working off DLA's
I'm
recommendation.
just off the agents or anyone who's current assistant costs.
I mean, this goes to why are we bringing, like we were talking about having bids and going out in February, coming back and approving in March. How is this one moving forward off of that schedule?
I can answer that. I mean, I know that's our general schedule, but, the sooner we can be in the market, the better the price. For example, I believe it's 11 bidders on this roof thing. That's outstanding, If we were doing this in May, even April, we wouldn't have 11 bidders. Competition is very peaked right now. So with this kind of dollars, we pushed ahead and got out in the market quick, and I think the price reflects it. So we will continue to do that, January, February, yeah, it's our target, but if we can get out a little quicker, we will, because I just experienced over years, it's just that much better to be on the street first than last.
Yeah, as we start to get to the summer months, you're going to have companies that just won't even participate in the bid process because they have too much work. Or they'll bid higher knowing that they can't take it. At least that's been my experience in the industry.
No, I think that's a good reason to do that. I think from an overall aspect, when we were talking in October, when the 5-year capital or the capital projects were brought up, I raised that I thought we were going to be spending all of the money that's in that capital projects plan, or that's what it looked like. And we had a discussion that we would kind of bring this back and kind of, at least from the administration, give the board kind of the priorities. I think roofing obviously is a priority, so I don't see any problem with this one moving forward. But I think for anything else, I think we should be having a discussion on kind of the appropriate, level of capital projects to do. I agree, longer term, you have to, I've talked about, I call it a sustainable budget. I think you have to get up to that 3 million, 3% range, but I just, with all the unknowns and where we are with our financials, and when we were talking about this prior, maybe some of these board members weren't here, the time might escape me, but we were talking about a little bit slower ramp up, and I think we should at least have that discussion before we go through and approve all these projects. This one, again, I think the roofs and the parking lots, which we've done the studies on everything, I think those are the priorities, so I'm fine. This obviously is personally fine, but I think we have to have that discussion.
Makes sense.
Okay, so for next meeting, we can bring an update to the capital improvement plan. Just know that, we are working every day on this, every day we're getting something else lined up. So we'll bring an update for the next meeting, but the cogs are rolling. This is the busiest bidding time right now for us. And so we're moving quickly.
I'm not trying to get in the way, but when I brought this up in October, it was said that we would, because I watched it again, and we said we would bring this up before we talked about all these, and when we're bidding in February and March. So I think we owe it to have that conversation.
We want to be careful we don't kick our coverage here. To Chris's point, it ramps up pretty fast. Now, this was great because this adds to it because you're doing a restoration versus the retrofit, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars over, and getting a 15-year extension. But I think it's prudent to revisit that, because I'm sure next month you're going to come in with a series of other bids. That again, I just want to make sure we're not writing checks we can't cash.
Right. We'll bring an update for next meeting.
And I'm not trying to get into the picking the projects. I think I'm talking about this from more of a strategic, how much, how are we growing those capital projects and getting there. So.
Any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you.